You didn't get here by accident. When your mind starts to break and your body doesn't understand why, something bigger is trying to reveal itself, and it's precisely when the emptiness begins to torment more than the pain that Egypt's most dangerous wisdom finds you. Not as a distant god, but as a silent presence that approaches when your mind is about to break, and when that happens, there's no turning back. Discomfort becomes a signal, exhaustion becomes a code, and what once seemed like anxiety is the beginning of the collapse of everything you've been taught about health, balance, and healing. You felt it, you've already noticed that something is wrong, even if no one else sees it, and now you're going to find out why your mind might be trying to destroy you and how it can start healing you today. But if you think this is just positive thinking, you better brace yourself, because what you're about to hear is not self-help. It's vibrational alchemy based on the same codes that Egyptian priests used to reprogram the body without touch, without medicine, without prayer, and only those who watch to the end receive the full technique. If you are here, it is not by chance. And if you feel that this message is already speaking to you, leave a like immediately and subscribe to the channel so I will know that you are one of us. I will know that you recognize the value of what you are listening to. I will know that you choose to support those who, like you, believe that awareness is the only true revolution. It is your silent gesture that keeps this space alive. Are you ready? Because the transformation has already begun, and what comes next cannot be undone. What is set in motion in the mind also moves the substance of the world. It all begins so subtly that most people don't even notice. It is not pain. It is not fever. It is nothing you can measure with a thermometer or show on a test. It is a lightness that fades, a faint fog that begins to form between your thoughts. You sit down to work, but your mind is no longer there. You look at life and feel that something has changed, even though everything still seems the same. This is the first sign, but almost no one notices it because we have been taught to pay attention only when the body screams. Except that when the body screams, the process has already been going on for a long time. The ancients knew this. In the temples of Egypt, the priests trained by Thoth did not only ask what the patient felt, they observed what the patient thought, because they understood that every disease before it manifests in the flesh settles in a more subtle field. The body is the last place where imbalance appears. Before it gets there, it has already passed through the mind, past the emotional field, and has become rooted in the energetic patterns that surround the human being like an invisible atmosphere. That is where it all begins. First with repeated mental distractions, small memory gaps, sensations of being present but absent at the same time. Then comes irritation without any apparent cause. You feel impatient, reactive, disconnected. Not because something serious has happened. It is because the field has started to get agitated. The mind is trying to warn you something is wrong. But because we do not listen to that warning, the body takes over the task of communicating what has already become an energetic pattern. And then come the thoughts that repeat like a scratched record. Thoughts that you did not choose but that appear on their own. They bring with them memories, traumas, limiting beliefs, and the more you ignore them, the more they accumulate until tension begins to build in the energy field like something that is about to explode. But it doesn't explode all at once. First it turns into tiredness, then into vague symptoms, and finally into physical pain. It's because the body has already been forced to absorb an emotional content that you refuse to feel. The Egyptians called this an imbalance of the soul. They knew that the body is only a reflection, not an isolated machine, but a sensitive instrument that responds to the vibrational state of consciousness. An organ doesn't get sick just because of a virus or genetics, but because it has been weakened by repetitive mental patterns that have drained its original vitality. And the most dangerous part is that all this happens in silence. As you smile, work, post, talk, your energy implodes inside you. That is why the initiated priests did not diagnose illnesses. They read the vibrational field of the being. Each person was like an invisible text full of information recorded in their thoughts. unprocessed emotions, and mental images that they carried from childhood. When the field was congested, the body was the next to get sick, not by accident, but as a consequence. This is where many people go wrong. They try to fix in the body what has started in the mind. They take medicine, they change their diet, they do tests, but the imbalance remains alive because the deep cause remains intact. And if the root is not recognized, the body will be forced to scream louder and louder until you finally stop and listen. But by then, it is often already too late, because by the time the imbalance reaches the material world, it has already penetrated all the internal layers of resistance. And trying to cure only the effect without reaching the root is like drying ice. You feel better for a while, but soon it all comes back. Sometimes with a different name, sometimes in a different organ, but with the same pattern. The imbalance doesn't happen by accident. It's a silent accumulation, a muffled sound that no one else hears, but that vibrates inside you like a forgotten call. And when that call is ignored for too long, the body's response stops being a warning and becomes an inevitable consequence. The mind that heals is also the mind that kills. And that consequence has a name, it has a face, it has weight. The name is silent poison, a kind of toxin that doesn't come from outside. It's not in your water, food, or air. It's inside, created, fueled, and recycled by the thoughts and emotions you refuse to dissolve. And the more it accumulates, the more it poisons. First in vibration, then in function, until the body, having no other choice, turns the emotional accumulation into disease. This is the kind of poison you carry every day without realizing it. The unpurged guilt, the anger you repress because you shouldn't feel it, the fear you deny while smiling. None of these emotions disappear just because they have been silenced. On the contrary, they settle in your field like latent shadows, and it is precisely because they are ignored that they become dangerous, not because they are bad, but because they are misunderstood. Thoth had already left this warning hidden in the hermetic teachings. The body is loyal, it obeys and it obeys without question. If the mind emits anguish, it contracts. If the mind vibrates fear, it activates the internal alarm. If the mind repeats guilt, it slowly poisons itself like a temple corrupted from within. The body is a reflection of the vibration of the mind. It has no power of choice. It just executes. And this is not a spiritual allegory. Science itself, centuries later, has begun to confirm what the initiates already knew. Constant emotional stress activates chemical cascades that prevent the body from regenerating. The immune system goes into chronic defense mode. Digestion slows, sleep becomes fragmented, and the organs begin to operate on high alert, as if you were living in an invisible war. But that war is not outside, it is happening inside your head. Every recurring negative thought creates a biochemical signature, a chain reaction that the body has to endure. And what was supposed to be a temporary response, a passing fear, a fleeting sadness, turns into an emotional routine that shapes your physiology. You are not just feeling emotions, you are metabolizing them, you are somatizing them, you are imprinting a vibration in the body that has not been released. This is why many diseases have no apparent cause. The tests come back normal. The parameters are correct, but the body hurts. The energy is drained. Sleep does not restore. Life begins to lose color, splendor, flavor. This is because the poison that is making you sick is not physical, it is vibrational. And because no one has taught you to recognize it, you continue to carry emotional baggage that your system was never designed to support. But there is one detail that the ancients have left recorded, something that can completely change this picture, a turning point, a break in the pattern, a specific state in which the body, instead of obeying a sick mind, begins to respond to another frequency, a frequency that must be consciously accessed just before the poison solidifies. And it is at this point that everything begins to change, because it is here that you understand one of the most uncomfortable and liberating truths that exist. Your mind is not neutral, it never has been. It is not just observing the events of your life, it is shaping each of them in real time. Every second, even if you do not realize it, your mind creates images, activates emotions, sends signals that sooner or later will manifest in the physical world. You are not just thinking, you are building, and that changes everything, because if you really understand this, you stop treating your thoughts like harmless clouds. They are not. They are the invisible architecture of what you experience. Every recurring thought that you allow to pass by without attention is transformed into form. First mental form, then energetic form, then physical form. That is the sequence, and it does not stop. Even when you are asleep, your mind continues to operate this system. Thoth said, "All is mind," not as a poetic metaphor, but as a structural law of reality. The visible universe is born from the mind of the invisible. Likewise, your life experience is born from the mind you carry. But there is a detail that few have the courage to face. The mind does not distinguish between creating something good or something destructive. It creates what is given to it. If you vibrate fear, it builds a scenario that confirms that fear. If you vibrate scarcity, it attracts situations that reinforce lack. If you vibrate insecurity, it manifests obstacles that reinforce doubt, not because life is against you, but because you are projecting it onto life. And then comes the most dangerous part, because if you don't become aware of this process, you become a victim of what you are unconsciously creating. You start to believe that you have bad luck, that things are always going wrong, that nothing is flowing. But the truth is that your mind is in automatic creation mode, attracting experiences that match the internal vibration that you feed every day. This is not a punishment, this is precision. The universe works according to frequency, and your mind is the antenna that is sending the signal. It is not about positive thinking. It is not about smiling while everything falls apart. This is the biggest mistake of those who try to master the mind without understanding the vibrational field. Because thinking positively without clearing the dense mental records is like painting on a moldy wall. It looks good on the outside, but the damage remains on the inside. The mind that heals is not the mind that pretends. It is the mind that integrates, that recognizes emotions, observes patterns, and consciously chooses where to anchor its attention. Positive thinking is easy. Mastering the creative mental process is another story. It is realizing that every emotionally fueled mental image becomes a command. Your brain does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. If you replay a painful memory with intensity, your body reacts with sweat, tightness in the chest, a lump in the throat. Now imagine what happens when you do this every day, several times a day, with scenes that represent pain, loss, failure. Your body is silently obeying those commands. You feel tired, but you think it's just routine. You lose your appetite, but you say it's stress. You can't sleep, but you ignore it because it will pass. Except this is all the body language responding to a mind that is collapsing, a mind that is creating dense realities because it has been left on autopilot. And the mind's autopilot always attracts the familiar. And what is familiar? Trauma, scarcity, fear, repetition. But there is a key, a way to interfere with this process, to reverse this flow of automatic creation and take back control, not by force or repression, but by a code that was taught only in the temples, at the deepest levels of initiation. And that code has nothing to do with thinking better, it begins somewhere else. The vibrational judgment of Mat. It begins in the silence of what has never been said, in the vibration of what has been felt but never processed. Because it is not enough to understand that your mind is creating reality. You have to go beyond understanding and access the field in which those realities are conceived. And for this, the ancients did not use technology. They used symbols, rituals, and an invisible judgment that still happens inside you every single day. In the ancient Book of the Dead, it is written that the heart of the deceased was placed on a scale. On one side, the heart, on the other, the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth, harmony, and cosmic order. But this was not just a funerary ritual, it was a coded message, a vibrational representation of what every human being experiences in life. Because ultimately, the scale is operating right now inside you, every moment. The heart is not just an organ, it is a symbol of your inner vibration. And that vibration has weight. Guilt is heavy, fear is heavy, hatred is heavy, resistance is heavy. But truth, when accepted, is light. Presence is light. Inner harmony is light. And your body knows it. It feels when you are heavy. It registers it in your muscles, in your bones, in your skin. It responds with blockages, knots, inflammation. Any tension you build up is a direct reflection of the mental density you are feeding. The ancient priests did not wait for the body to get sick. They did not treat the symptoms. They watched for subtle signs: the change in the sparkle of the eyes, the alteration in the tone of the voice, the heaviness of the breath. And when they noticed these signs, they knew that something was out of alignment. They then performed vibrational practices to restore the field before the body collapsed, because they knew that disease is always the last stage of an imbalance that began at invisible levels. And this is where the game changes completely, because the real medicine for them was not a substance, it was a frequency, a vibration that, when restored, reorganized the entire body without the need for outside interference. This medicine was not applied, it was awakened from within, and there was a specific practice used for this, a practice that requires more than good intention. It requires vibrational surrender, connection, and mental mastery. This practice does not begin in the body, it begins in the image, but not just any image. A specific mental image activated with precision, felt with truth, and held with focus. This is what Thoth called conscious creation. For him, reality was malleable, nothing was fixed, nothing was immutable. Everything could be rearranged if one knew how to access the right field of mind. And here comes the hidden code that the priests practiced in the temples, especially in Saqqara. They trained the mind to project images with such clarity and emotional intensity that the body began to react as if that reality was already happening. It wasn't surface visualization, it was vibrational neurovision, an altered state of consciousness in which the mental image ceases to be imagination and becomes lived experience. The initiate was led slowly into this state. First, he cleared the field with rhythmic breathing. Then he created an internal scene in which he was already healed. He wasn't trying, he already was. He felt it in detail: the lightness of the body, the clarity in the eyes, the freedom in the movement, the peace in the breath. And the more he felt it, the more that image became an inner truth. And when the inner truth solidified, the body began to obey. But be careful, this technique does not work if done as an automatic ritual. It requires presence, true surrender. Because what the priests knew, and what modern science is beginning to discover, is that the brain does not distinguish a real experience from one lived intensely in the emotional field. If you feel it as truth, the body takes it as truth. And when the body believes, it begins to change. This is the difference between positive thinking and vibrational creation. And this practice, if done correctly, has the power to change not only your body, but the reality around you. Because the internal vibration reorganizes not only the biological, but also the electromagnetic field that surrounds you. And once that field is altered, it begins to attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that match the same frequency. It is as if the universe responds by saying, "Got it, you have changed. Now everything around you will change too." But this is just the beginning of the process. The mental ritual of inner alchemy. Because visualizing and feeling is not enough if you do not know what is happening behind the scenes in your mental field. The mind operates with almost mechanical precision. It follows an order, and it is that order that determines whether what you think will dissolve into nothingness or materialize as an experience. In Egyptian alchemy, the process of creation was divided into three basic phases. First comes the form, that is the thought, the initial idea, the mental seed. But form alone does not produce results, it must be fed. And what feeds form is emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. It is the fuel that activates the vibrational command. When you think something and feel it with true intensity, you create a coherent vibration. And when that vibration is sustained long enough, it becomes substance, reality, thought, emotion, matter. This is the triad that drives all manifestation. This was the real secret of alchemy, turning lead into gold. But the lead was not literal, it was symbolic. It represented the pain, the emotional heaviness, the trauma, the density that the human being carries. The gold, on the other hand, was the state of alignment, the healing, the lightness, the mind restored to its original purity. Self healing, in this context, was never about repairing a single organ. It was about retuning the mind to the original field of balance, where the body stops resisting and begins to reorganize naturally. Because when the mind vibrates coherence, the body responds with regeneration. When the mind vibrates chaos, the body goes on defense, and that constant defense turns into disease. The mental ritual of inner alchemy was just that, consciously choosing the form, generating a heightened emotion associated with that image, and sustaining that field until it became more real than the pain. It wasn't rushed or distracted. It was a precise daily practice, like a craftsman shaping his own reality. But there is a hidden challenge in this journey, something that no exercise, no matter how powerful, can overcome if it isn't faced first. It's like trying to run with a chain around your ankle. You might move, but you won't get anywhere. This obstacle is invisible but constant, and it has a very clear name: recurring thought. You may have the best intentions. You may meditate every day. You may write affirmations on the mirror, breathe deeply, repeat mantras, try to stay focused. But if you repeat thought patterns of lack, doubt, anger, or self pity the rest of the day, all that effort will be swallowed up by the dominant field. Because what really shapes reality is not what you think every now and then, it is what you think all the time, especially in silence. Silent thoughts are the most dangerous, the ones you don't say but feel, the ones no one sees but that constantly flow like a hidden code. They don't scream, but they slowly program your vibration like a silent virus. It's as if your mind is constantly writing a script and the universe is simply filming it exactly as it was written. And if that script is made of fear, haste, comparison, resentment, or disbelief, no technique will work because the field remains corrupted. The recurring thought is the real enemy within. It is what keeps the field from stabilizing. It is what sabotages the mental image. It is what cancels the elevated emotion. And it is what must be deactivated before the alchemy can truly work. There is a way to break this cycle, not by force, but by vibrational intelligence, a simple but precise technique capable of breaking the automatic loop and creating space for a new frequency to finally be installed. And it is precisely this secret that is about to be revealed. Now the mind reversed. When the body obeys the frequency, the technique that the ancients preserved and that now returns to you like a forgotten key, is known among modern initiates as vibrational neurovision. This name may sound technical, but what it represents is simple: the union between the emotional field, the nervous system, and the frequency of the mental image. When these three elements merge, the mind does not just think, it projects a new order that the body recognizes as real. But be careful, this practice does not work through quantity. It requires quality, presence, clarity, and total surrender, even if only for a few minutes. You do not have to spend hours meditating, but you do have to be completely present, even if only for 10 minutes. Because in those 10 minutes, if the fusion is real, you will reprogram your body like an alchemist reshapes the essence of a metal. The first step is to silence the field. This means to stop the vibrational agitation that your mind and body carry on during the day, and the best way to do this is with rhythmic breathing. Inhale for 8 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, exhale slowly for 8 seconds, repeat. This rhythm, in addition to calming your system, begins to create coherence between your heart and brain, something that the ancients already sensed and that neuroscience now confirms. With the field stabilized, begin the second step. Visualize your body already healed, but be careful. It is not a matter of vaguely imagining. You have to see in detail, feel the texture of your skin, the gentle warmth of health flowing inside, the natural rhythm of your breathing, the lightness in your shoulders, the clarity in your mind. You have to see it as if you were really there. not desiring but inhabiting, because your brain does not respond to desire. It responds to what you feel is already real. The third phase is the most delicate. You have to charge that image with real emotion. It is not enough to see. You have to feel as if your body is already working in perfect harmony. Feel the gratitude, the relief, the joy of being whole. The vibration you emit in that moment is the real command, because it is the emotion that transforms the image into frequency, and the frequency is what the body obeys. For the brain, the emotion is reality. Finally, repeat this process for 10 minutes a day, preferably before sleeping, when the mind is in a more receptive state. This is not a magic ritual, it is vibrational engineering. You are teaching your system to respond to new information, and if you hold it consistently, the body will inevitably begin to respond. Not because you forced it, but because you created the field for it to happen. And here comes the crux. Because you can't just apply this technique once and expect miracles. The mind works through repetition. The body needs consistency. If you hold this new field long enough, the old programming begins to dissolve. Symptoms change, emotional patterns rearrange, life around you responds, but only those who maintain that frequency beyond the initial excitement reach the final stage, the point where the body stops resisting and begins to cooperate with the field you have created, and that is where the real reversal occurs. Because when the mind changes, the body obeys. This is the principle that unites spirituality and biology. What you vibrate consistently becomes the foundation upon which the body reconfigures itself. And this works for healing as well as for breakdown. The difference is in the dominant field. If you do nothing, if you do not interrupt the thoughts that feed the imbalance, the body will continue to obey the old programming, even if it was created by a version of you that no longer exists. And here is the final revelation. Thoth said that those who do not master their own mind become slaves to someone else's creation. This means that if you do not occupy your vibrational field, it will be filled by external patterns, media, society, family, the past. Your mind is a temple, but if you do not govern it, it becomes abandoned land. And abandoned land attracts everything that vibrates in disorder. Now you know the technique. You have received the code, seen how it works, felt the call. Now what you do with it will determine whether your mind is your medicine or your poison. If you have come this far, you have already taken the first step. Few have the courage to look inside themselves and recognize that true healing begins with the mind. If these words have touched something authentic within you, leave us a like to amplify this frequency. Comment with the words, "I choose to heal," a phrase of ours, born from this journey, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming. Because yes, something is really coming, and we feel it too. I wish you to guard your mind like the sacred temple that it is, and to treat every thought like a seed capable of creating worlds. We will meet again soon, in an even deeper space. Until then, remain light.